going to bring that.
One check, check. Can we hear? Yep.
Now he's a DJ.
Call the meeting to order. Madam Town Clerk, would you please call the roll?
William Dietzick,
Here.
James Morelli,
Here.
Toni Morrison, Christopher Palmieri,
Here.
Jack Perry,
Here.
Jennifer Klock,
Here.
Michael Del Santo,
Present.
Valerie DiPaolo,
Here.
Paul Chaplinsky.
Here, and I did hear from Councilman Morrison. He is sick today at the last minute and is unable to make it, so we have a quorum with 8. Can we please stand for the prayer and flag salute? And we're going to have a moment of silence following the flag salute.
Oh, Tony has, you'll have to take that.
Oh.
Yeah.
You get it by
Sorry about
default.
that.
Our Father, help us this night to do the right thing in all of the issues that we consider. Help us not to be persuaded by popular opinion or political ambition, but rather to see this office we hold as a gift from you. Help us walk upright in this calling. Amen.
Amen.
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. If we can please remain standing. I'd like to ask for a moment of silence for assistant coach Chuck Drury, who passed away unexpectedly in the past week or so. Thank you. Okay, we're looking for motion for the meeting minutes from our last meeting.
A motion to approve from our last meeting.
Second.
We have a motion and a second to approve the minutes from our last meeting. Any discussion? Okay, all those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Any abstentions?
Abstention?
One abstention? Okay, so the motion passes 7-0-1. We're moving to councilperson communications. Anybody have anything?
Mr. Chair?
Yes.
Okay. Thank you. I just have a couple items. So I just wanted to give an update on the public transportation, the bus that is going to be coming through. I know we all received an email on that, but very exciting that the bus route will be starting on Sunday, March 10th. It's the 532 bus route, and that bus route will be going from Stop and Shop in Southington down into Plainville Library. At the Plainville Library, it can allow passengers to go to different areas, to different bus routes, so to get to New Britain, get to Hartford. So it's excellent that it's coming through. The next step will be hopefully to have the bus route go through Southington a little bit further. The reason this is so important is because if we do get some paratransit at some point, then disabled individuals will be able to potentially pick up the bus somewhere in town to go to other areas. So, so that's just exciting that that's going to take place. So I don't know if anybody has any questions on it.
I do have a quick question. Is there talk of a next phase? I remember the original route was eventually through Plantsville and up to West Street and into maybe Bristol, right?
Right,
Is that the intention if things are successful and?
You know, I know, Mark, you can maybe speak to this too. When we were on the bus, they didn't talk about that a lot because they were just trying to really finalize the
Get a
stops.
start for this phase?
Right.
I think the Bristol one was stopped.
Okay.
Moving the Bristol one south, that was stopped, and they added this instead.
Okay.
But they didn't commit to anything other than what we currently are getting in
Right,
March.
but I think they are keeping an open mind to see that if it could go further into, into Plantsville. How that's going to happen, I'm not sure.
Okay, thanks.
Val, is there any expectation of ridership? Do we know yet what the
They-
state's level of expectation is?
I think they feel it's going to be a good route, that people have wanted it. Ridership has been up a bit, I think, since, some people are back into going to work and not as remote anymore. So we're just going to have to see. We'll see
Thank
what
you.
it is. And the other thing, too, that I had a couple residents had reached out, when the bus is going to stop for any period of time, it's going to be in a parking lot. It'll be like in ShopRite, in Stop and Shop. The bus won't really be stopping for a long period of time on Queen Street, because I think people were a little bit concerned about, is this going to cause more traffic, on Queen Street? It's really only going to stop on Queen Street if somebody needs to get off, they let them know, or if there's someone there waiting, so it'll be very quick. But I think most of the stops will
Yeah,
be
they haven't committed.
parking lot.
The email I sent all you guys did not commit to anything on Queen Street at this point. So I'm not sure. And
If they'll even do that.
You and I did the stops, I think Annette was with us, and Victoria was with us too. But I know the ones that you and I received, as well as the council, it talked about, I believe, the 3 strip malls.
Right. So I think it alleviates, I had let the residents know, I think it alleviates a little bit of that concern about the traffic.
I think in the email that we received, it said that it was going to stop. The 3 stops that are noted on the map are not the only stops. So
Right.
those 3 plazas are
Right.
the plazas that they will pull into.
Right.
But there will be a number of stops along Queen Street along the way.
That's my
That's what they're
understanding.
But they haven't given us that
They haven't told
information
us which
They
ones yet.
haven't- right.
They said every couple blocks, I think they said.
Right, right.
Okay. Anything else?
Yeah, I just wanted to talk about, I wasn't able to be at the last meeting, but I did watch, and I was really impressed with Christina Volpe's presentation that she did, and really happy that she did that presentation. So I wanted to highlight the Witness Stones project, and I don't know if members of the council are familiar with the Witness Stones project, but I really want to highlight that, and I think it's something that kind of builds upon what Christina had presented. So the Witness Stones project is an educational initiative whose mission is to restore the history and honor the humanity of the enslaved individuals who helped build our communities. The work is done by conducting research, providing educational activities in schools and communities, and installing witness stones in front of the place where an enslaved person lived, worked, or worshiped. The project began in Guilford in 2017. It's partnered with over 100 schools, churches, museums, civic organizations across 5 states. And the project has already won a number of awards. So what I wanted to let people know is, I wanted to let our residents know that the First Congregational Church, as part of a Lenten study series, has partnered with the Witness Stones Project and is offering a 5-week Zoom event. So a 5-week series. It began last Wednesday. It will go for 4 more Wednesdays. And I spoke with Pastor Ron this morning. If any resident or any council member, if anybody's interested in getting that Zoom link and registering, you can contact Pastor Ron, contact the church office. Pastor Ron also said he'd be happy to talk to any of the council members if you have any questions about why the church is doing this project and the importance of the work that the church is doing. And I told him I would pass that along to all of you tonight. So I also spoke with Christina this morning at the Barnes, and, I let her know that I really appreciated her presentation, and we discussed the Witness Stones project. She is aware of it. She knows the executive director of Witness Stones. So, I was thinking about this, that rather than have Christina's work be like a one and done type thing, right? It was a great presentation. I know there's maybe a second step of having a marker on the Freedom Trail for the enslaved individual, Peter Tuska. But I was hoping that we can consider continuing the work across all the sectors in our community. So, schools, libraries, the Barnes, churches, the Historical Society, and, possibly partner with the Witness Stone Project and maybe make this a community effort. Christina had mentioned it's important to recognize all of our Southington history, all of the stories, even the more difficult stories. And, I'm just thinking that, when you shine a light on the darker moments with compassionate conversations, it helps us to move forward toward a more just and equitable future. So I thought her presentation was excellent. I think it's something that, a number of communities in Connecticut are doing this with the Witness Stones Project, so I just thought it might be something that we could kind of continue to move forward.
Thank you, Val.
Thank you.
Anybody else? Jen?
Okay, so this Saturday I had the honor, and it was an honor to jump at the YMCA Polar Plunge. It was my first time. I was very nervous and skeptical, but I think someone told me when you jump in, you're really gonna be reminded of how much you love living. And she was actually right, and it was pretty awesome. And the YMCA raised over $85,000 to help kids go to camp, and that's just great. I jumped with Jim, Tom Lombardi, and I want to thank our captain, Candace Mazzarella, as well. It was a really great time, and I would definitely do it again. I say that now.
And my apologies for not jumping. I had intended to jump, signed up to jump, and ended up having the foot surgery, but I was there with you to support you.
Yes.
Chris?
Just to follow up on that, just a reminder, the YMCA is having their annual meeting this coming Wednesday at the AquaTurf. I'd just like to give a shout out to the honorees this year. The Person of the Year is Dan Daigle. The Youth Development Award is for Stephen Pinterich. The Healthy Living Award is Southington Behavioral Health and Social Services Stakeholders Group. Social Responsibility Award is for Tony McCacci. And the Youth Leadership Award is Ava Egan and Cassidy Plord. So again, continuing that why week, I guess. Just a reminder to the public, the budget public hearing is next Monday at 7 p.m. at DePaulo. It's open to the public. We want to hear from residents, issues, concerns, thoughts on the budget, and that's a great opportunity. Everything will be presented that night, or questions will be able to be addressed if there's anything related to this coming budget. So again, that's a week from tonight at 7 p.m. at DePaulo. And finally, at the last meeting, I mentioned the topic of the infused drinks. So it actually got some notoriety this week on Friday. It was on NBC News. Megan Albanese from STEPS spoke. She was interviewed, just talking about the danger and the risks to our youth. So hopefully, again, we're going to make some changes. I also have heard back from Representative Poulos, and they're working on making some changes at the state legislature as well. So just wanted to update everyone on that.
Wonderful. Thank you, Councilman Palmieri. Anybody else?
Mr. Chair?
Yes, Councilman Perry.
Thank you. So we all received some emails from Covanta, and you may have saw, or from residents in regards to Covanta, and some may have seen it on the news as well. And I just was wondering, Mark, if you have any further update, to obviously, it's a concern of the noise that they're hearing. It sounds like a humming noise. So I don't know if we have an update or anything, because we've received several emails.
Yeah, as I sent that email out to you guys on Wednesday, what happened is the Bristol Burlington Health District, which has the jurisdiction over the plant, they're hired a separate group to get involved in it. I haven't seen the report yet, but Susan, who is our health director, has been in contact with them. So that's what we're working through them. I've been in contact probably 4 or 5 times with the mayor of Bristol, and he's waiting for the report from the Bristol district also. At this point, it does not violate anything in Bristol. Their noise ordinance, it doesn't fall into that category. So it's something that Covanta is going to work with. They've pledged, at least to us, that they're going to work with it and correct the problem. I've only seen the summary that you guys saw, that I sent to you. I have not seen the full report. My understanding is the full report has not been released by Covanta, but we'll be getting our own report through Bristol, the health district. So Susan gets it. I will send it to you guys.
Thank you.
And I also did personally meet with the family who sent us the note and complained. I met with them at their house. We did not hear anything at the time this weekend. It is said that it happens quite regularly, 24/7. At the time I went, it was not apparent. And I'll go back out there and follow up as well and continue to follow up with.
I parked out there also, and I'm not the youngest person, so I could not hear it either. But some people hear it, some people don't. But in this particular case, it's definitely there because the report from Covanta says it's
Absolutely.
It's an atmospheric type noise, a buzzing noise. So.
Thank you. Thank you, Councilman Perry, for the follow-up on that. Anybody else? No? I just had a couple small updates. We did have a Board of Education Building Committee meeting to talk about continuing the plans for what the Board of Education would like to see for facility upgrades. As everybody knows, there's 3 facilities still outstanding, elementary schools that haven't been updated in many decades. So in about 1 month's time, the expectation is that the consultants that are working on that will put together some analysis for the building committee to look at and make a recommendation back to the Board of Education on, where the Board of Education should focus their efforts with respect to upgrading those schools. So more to come in about a month or so on that. And we did have some of our we are getting some applicants on the town manager hiring side. We had some initial interviews on that, and that'll continue in the next month or two, where we hope to come back to the town council with some recommendations on candidates that we think the entire town council should do a deeper dive and have formal interviews as a full council. More to come on that in the next couple months. Okay, anybody else? Good. All right, we'll move on to item number 4, reports of special committees. Chris, SHS Roof.
Yes, we met on Tuesday, February 13th, and not many items on the agenda. Just a couple updates. Silktown is ready to start construction right when school ends at the end of this school year. The architect did approve the plans that they presented to them, so again, we're ready to move forward with the end of school this year. Pete Romano is talking to the state and Adam from Titan about next steps for solar, to put solar on the roof once the project is complete. And then the last thing we did is we approved some invoices that we needed to pay. So again, everything's on track to move forward this summer.
Any questions for Councilman Palmieri? I had one.
Just
Go ahead,
a-
Val.
Yeah, just a quick one. What's the anticipated completion date
This summer.
this summer? So once they start, it should
If
be
you remember, they
relatively
did
quick.
the other part, two summers ago, Mark?
2 or 3 summers.
2 or 3 summers ago. Yeah, we got it done in that time frame.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you, Councilwoman DiPaolo. Chris, is there any special attention, and maybe it's more for Mark, or is there any special attention that needs to happen with respect to safety features with such a large building and solar panels in the high school, from a safety perspective, from like the fire department? I do see periodically, pros and cons of putting solar panels on roofs with respect to being able to access the building, extinguish a fire, that may be in that area. Is there a review that needs to be done on that?
Yeah, when the actual, we're buying these, remember, this is the first time ever the town is actually buying solar panels. But yes, that's a part of the process, part of the permit. The fire department will make sure that everything's okay, along with all the other town departments have to look at it.
Yeah, great.
Yeah.
Thanks.
Mm-hmm.
Anything else, Chris?
No, that's it.
Okay. Thank you, Councilman Palmieri. Item B, Strike Committee.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. We had our meet.
Excuse me, Mr. Chair.
Oh,
I'm gonna
sorry.
Yeah, no, you're good. I'm going to recuse myself because one of the items that was talked at the last strike meeting, I have a financial interest in that property.
Got it.
Thanks, Jack.
Councilman Perry is stepping off the dais for the record.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. We had our meeting on the 14th of February, and we heard from the Director of Planning and Community Development, Mr. DeCarli, about some of the items coming up for the Planning and Zoning Commission. One of them was an auto repair shop at 1300 South Main Street. This is, I'm not sure if the council is aware of this. This was something that we did, Paul and Jim, on Planning and Zoning years ago, right next to the bowling alley. And looks like it's finally going to come to fruition. There's going to be an auto repair shop there, which we're excited about. And the Planning and Zoning Commission was to take up the issue of payment in lieu of sidewalk fees at their last meeting. So more to follow on that. There were two applications, or two applicants in town, one at 682 Curtis Street and one at 1601 West Street on the West Queen Stride portion, side portion of the property, where they were asking for some financial assistance to put a road in for some industrial businesses. The Curtis Street property is I-2, which is heavy industrial, and the West Street property on the West Queen Street side would be I-1, which is light industrial. So there is some, there could be some potential available funds to help with the construction of the road, road improvements only. So the the strike committee voted to send back a favorable recommendation, and I spoke with corporate counsel, Alex, and he is going to look into what the next steps will be. Most likely will be planning and zoning, so more to follow on that as well.
Just to update on that.
Yeah, go ahead,
I'm
Mark,
meeting-
thank you.
I'm meeting with with my staff this week on one of those. I won't say which one, but as you know, that the town has set aside, and has set aside for years now, $500,000 for a future industrial park. So there is funding that's already in the capital budget for that. So one of them we'll be looking very closely at. There were plans that were submitted to my office. I'll be sitting down with my planning staff and economic development, and we hope to get some information back to you, your board first, and then the council.
Right. And most importantly, these two projects are industrial, and there is no inventory in town. So if we were able to work at least one of these projects in, we'd be able to, fill some of these requests, because people want to be here. People want to open up shops, and people want to open up businesses in Southington. So it's important that, if we can assist, then we'll do so. Any questions? Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Thank you, Councilman Del Santo. Item C, Apple Harvest.
We had a meeting on Wednesday, February 14th. First and foremost, we reviewed the vendor booth applications. They are now available. So all organizations, civic groups.
I'm sorry. Just record, Councilman Perry's back on the dais for this.
Oh,
Sorry,
okay.
Chris.
No,
Wanted
no
to make sure it
problem,
was on.
no problem. So vendor booth applications are now available. We're asking for a June 1st deadline. This is especially to give priority to the returning vendors, so you can plan appropriately. They are available. They were sent out already, but they're also available on the town website. We're working on our sponsorship application as well. And then the last thing we did is we approved a series of contracts. All of these contracts agreed to return to the festival at the same rate for 2024 as they were for 2023. Therefore, we do not need to go out to bid because they are maintaining their price, which is a benefit to the town. So our carnival vendor will be Morena Entertainment again. They'll be back with us again, same price as for the 2023 festival. Our tent vendor, who was new last year, Mad Tents, they are returning for the 2024 festival. They actually agreed to maintain their price for the next 3 years, which again is a great asset to the town. So they will maintain their prices for the 2024, 25, and 26 festivals. Our fireworks vendor, Pyrotechnico, who was a new vendor last year, they are maintaining their price as well. So we approve them for the 2024 festival. The portable restroom vendor, United Site Service, again, agreed to maintain their price, so therefore we approve them for the 2024 festival. And finally, the refuge dumpster vendor, CWPM, is maintaining their price, so we did approve them for the 2024 festival. We're going out to bid for several other contracts, including our electrical vendor, entertainment sound vendor, shuttle bus vendor, ground cleanup vendor, and beverage RFP vendor. So we'll have more in future meetings. Any questions?
Questions for Councilman Palmieri?
Very excited to hear that Taylor Swift is playing this year
Oh, sure, yeah, sure.
on the
sure.
stage. That's incredible.
Right on our budget.
Good. Spread the word.
I guess you're singing.
Tony Swift, his cousin, her cousin.
Yep.
It's not the same.
Okay, thank you, Councilman Palmieri. Item D, technology. Councilwoman Clark,
Yes, I have a brief presentation.
great.
I will leave and go right
We'll
there.
see you over there.
Madam Clerk, set the timer. No, I'm joking.
I've never been up here, just FYI.
Just make sure you speak into the microphone.
I'll speak into, and while I might not deliver as eloquently as Cristiano, our kid governor, I do know right at this moment I am slightly taller for now. So, okay. Okay, so we, first I want to thank you for the opportunity to work on this temporary committee. And as a volunteer, I find it the most gratifying when we get together with other community members and we're working to, you know, make progress for the town and create connections that we might not make, you know, not doing what we do. And that was the best part of this committee. So when the objective first came up, I thought, okay, that was about 7 weeks ago. How are we going to do such a large amount of information gathering in such a small amount of time? But we had 5 very dedicated committee members, and they just went out, and I want to thank each and every one of them. They went and they did the interviews, and we gathered all the information. And I want to talk a little bit about what our approach was. So for anyone that has never used this approach, it's called a SWOT approach. Strengths, weaknesses, opportunities, and threats. And basically, we investigate as the scope of the project, and we're information gathering to find just that. What are our strengths? What are our weaknesses, our opportunities, and our threats? And here, what we want to focus on are what are our opportunities in town for technology? So, you know, the 5-person committee split up, all of the town departments, all of them. They gathered information, and we identified the opportunities that we thought were critical in terms of technology. So, okay, what did we find? So what we did was we identified the opportunities by asking critical questions. Ooh, hold on a second. Just want to move this. I have a little pop-up. Okay. We asked critical questions to expose the greatest opportunities. So there was a great idea to develop a template. And so we developed a template of questions. And what it did was it made sure that as we were going out and interviewing the heads of the departments, the key stakeholders, we were having the same conversations. That created consistent questions and consistent findings, which was very helpful in the process. And it also really aided in not having those conversations get sidetracked with such a large focus group would be easily happen. So we took it and interviewed the key stakeholders inside every town department, and we focused on technology, but what we found was that there was great opportunity for process improvement combined with the usage of that technology. So, in my mind, my role in my daily job is operations and efficiency in operations. And when you process improve by leveraging technology, that is the greatest form of efficiency. And when it comes to costs, I just want to provide everyone with the overview. The scope of the project was just information gathering. We did obtain some very, general costs. We did get one quote, but really this is meant to be a guide, not, no directive, just a guide to say, hey, these are the opportunities that we found from feedback from our town departments, and this would be a great way to start to dig deeper into that. And when it comes to the cost, there's a large amount of variables. And so for each of the priorities that we identified, we would have to dedicate some time into looking into what those variables are and how we can, get the best bang for the buck. So in terms of the priorities, we identified the top 3 that showcase the most benefit with any associated costs. So in those categories, if we didn't get a cost, then those departments should be followed up with to identify a cleaner idea of what the specific costs would be. Okay, so we identified the top 3 priorities. Priority 1 was kind of a grouping. And we bulked this item as a software and hardware upgrade. So first, Office 365. So I'm sure many of you use this tool in your everyday life. This is just a necessary tool to practice efficient operations in 2024. So through what it is, if you haven't used it, it's through a whole suite of options. What it does is create consistent security standards and data exchange, and it provides for your staff to collaboratively communicate. It offers, the basic things that we might be paying for on an individual basis, but as a suite. So Word, Excel, Adobe, and really awesome things like OneDrive for secure document sharing and storage on the cloud. Microsoft Teams, which is a great tool for communications and collaboration. So we want to encourage that the Office 365, be looked at deeper to find out the best solution for each department, as well as any costs that could be offset by the investment. Again, there's things that we may be paying for that could be removed by getting this. Not sure. That could be looked into. It's the way you get it, you pay for it is it's a license per user, but there's different levels. And so, while one department might utilize the highest suite, one department might just only use email. And so if there's a way to manipulate that to drive costs down, and we should look into that as well. The next was cloud migration and services. So we also discussed overall cloud migration. So by the way of Office 365, you get a little bit of the way there, and especially in terms of document sharing. And it can be a transitional process. So that's something that we need to dive deeper into so that we can move things like document sharing, servers into the cloud. It can allow for the highest level of security, more mobility for employees moving from location to location and logging in at conferences. It can also offer the ability for our IT staff to remote patch. So if you're not familiar with that, we may have to go on to every single machine and patch security updates. This could allow, moving to the cloud allows you to do that in basically minutes. You write a script and you run the patching. So there's a lot that you do with that investment. And also remember that at some point, because it is 2024, there's a lot of softwares that are going to force this. And so we need to look at getting ahead of it and before we're behind and trying to force it. So, and finally, we had a discussion surrounding updated hardware costs and how that translates annually. So, equipment replacement. We all know, we have equipment up here, but equipment ages. So we need to work on maintaining and replacing our oldest equipment, which our IT staff does do now, but we need to take a little bit deeper dive of maybe, are we giving them as many resources as they need to keep up with replacement? The second priority was to leverage existing software. So there's a software that already exists that we can leverage. So this next opportunity jumped out as a way to streamline processes and ensure that there are redundancies in place in HR and payroll. And since most town staff, we talked a lot about Munis. I didn't know what Munis was before this, and now I know a lot about it. But a lot of town staff works on Munis, and there's a tack-on to Munis that we did get a quote for, and it's called Tyler Tech. And basically, what it will do is remove any manual processes and streamline HR and payroll. It will reduce the time that is spent. It will reduce errors. Again, if you're manually entering things, that's more opportunity for error. And in payroll, that's not something that you want to go back and fix. And most importantly, it's going to create abilities like tracking and reporting. Reporting and trending can allow, HR and payroll capabilities to do a number of things for our staff. And I want to point out that these things, when we make these types of improvements, we're not just making them for our staff members, but also for users in the community. And so our third priority was training. Hold on a second. Go away. So inevitably, with any new software or hardware processes, we have varying capabilities of technology uses. This happens in every business. And so what we need to do and what we should do is touch base with our staff members and see, where are they at? How can we help you? The more you train, the more you get away from, the type of habit of the workaround. When someone doesn't know how to use something, they will find ways to get the means to an end, and it's not the fastest way. So if you invest in the training, and training doesn't cost, typically, anything except for staff time and investment to train. So we found 4 opportunities. The first was to develop a regularly scheduled training on Munis. A lot of people use Munis, but they use it in different ways. And some departments might use it in one way and have their processes be expedited, and some might not be. They might not know, that they're doing it not, the most expedient way. The second opportunity is to create a quarterly basic training for Microsoft Office. So, when we do get there, taking the time to train on Excel and Adobe and OneDrive to make sure everybody knows, what they're doing and how do they utilize it. And I do this in my job today. When you invest that time from the beginning, then you're making sure that people are being as efficient as they can. The third opportunity was to develop and cross-train between the departments, and this was something that was brought up. This is all feedback that we got from the departments, which is the greatest thing about this project. And again, some people might be doing things faster, like digitizing maps and other data, and some aren't there yet. And if we can cross-train and get departments together and share their best practices, we can reach optimal efficiency. And the fourth was a demonstration on the Tyler Tech time and attendance. So if we get there, investing the time to highlight the capabilities and the positives of those capabilities as well. So in this process, or during this process, like I said, we interviewed every town department, and we had the same question template, and we got a lot of information. And again, one thing came through strong, and I'll say it every time: we have the best town employees. They work very hard, and so I think it was nice to sit down with them and see, what do you think? What are you spending your time on? How can we help you? It helps bring out, all these things, and we found some trends, and I just wanted to mention some of those here. The FOI process. So we know Freedom of Information Act has created some work, and specifically in the police department. So the process is affecting not just the police department, but numerous departments, but it's a long process to go through and identify information, cull the information, and especially when there's video footage present, they have to manually go through and redact if there's a minor in the video. And you can imagine, if you get multiple requests, how long that takes. We should leverage software that is out there to reduce the time that our staff is taking on onerous processes like this. Investments in online payment and billing. I just watched the finance meeting, and I think that the tax assessments office just highlighted, they upgraded their credit card payment software, and now they're able to run reports and do things that they weren't able to do. We should do this in departments that we're not leveraging it for. It can create better ways of managing, following up, and increase cash flow, right? We need to follow up and get the cash that we're owed, and we can do this if we leverage the technology that's out there. Body cameras. So there was several departments that we could use these in that could aid in expediting the visits and also preventing litigation for documentation. Communication. So going back to Office 365, you do get Teams, so you can also leverage your soft phone environment with Teams and meetings. Are we duplicating software that we're paying for to get to this end? We should look into that as well. And finally, grant opportunities. So possibly investing in a grant writer, or spending additional time to extract state funds for technology to offset any technology costs to the taxpayer. But again, we have to make sure we think of, when we make investments in technology, you may have an upfront cost, but there's a cost versus benefit, and almost always the benefit is outweighs the initial cost of the initial investment. So what are the next steps after all this work? Well, we want to make sure that we reiterate, this is not going to dictate what is done, but rather continue the conversation in terms of technology based on the feedback that we received. So there's still a good amount of drill down work that needs to be done. Next step would be take a look at the top 3 priorities that we identified and see and get some specific pricing that's viable. Create an ongoing technology summit. A lot of people like this idea. Keep the conversation going between the heads of departments by getting them together to focus on technology. And they can do the things that are suggested, like sharing their ideas, sharing their processes, and possibly coming up with ways that leveraging what other towns are doing, just keeping the conversation going so that there's a focus on technology, so that we are getting into a place where we're constantly proactive when it comes to technology in town. And then the last was to review IT staffing needs. Do they match the needs of the overall size of the town? Is there an additional knowledge base needed? Technology is going to increase, it's going to grow, it's going to get more detailed. So again, our staff needs to be able to get the resources that they need to keep up with that. And I just want to end by thanking all of the town departments that participated. I want to thank the town manager, the town staff, and especially the committee members that took the time out of their day to do all the interviews And again, to our chairman for making sure that technology is a part of the conversation in town. Does anyone have any initial questions?
Councilwoman DiPaolo.
Sure. Jen, thanks so much for the report. So, just curious, when you, after you were gathering all the information, what did you find as the number one strength and the number one, or the most popular, weakness?
I think the number one strength was the dedication to wanting to learn more and, you know, grow more. That was one thing that really came out in the interviews. We had a committee, so our committee was Rebecca Savolko, Lara Nichols, Tom Lombardi, Alex Riccardone, Pete Santago, and myself. So it wasn't, you know, an IT person coming in and, you know, we were just kind of regular people talking and, you know, you can see through the feedback, people wanted to learn more. Were willing to learn more, wanted to see, like, what are other towns doing? You know, I know I can improve this or that, you know, the willingness.
Yep.
Yeah, was a strength. The weakness, I would say, just probably training. You know, sometimes when you implement a software or a technology, it kind of drops off. And so you do have to make training a regular occurrence and keep it going and touch base with users to make sure.
So really the lack of training, right? That there's not, well, they maybe don't feel that there's training to take place for them to get better.
Yeah, or, you know, and again, everybody's at a different level. So there could be training, but maybe, you know, some are still, you know, struggling and some are way beyond. You know, there's varying levels when it comes to technology. So it does take a lot of attention.
Does it seem as though different departments are very, across the different departments, they're all operating differently? Or is there some uniformity?
I would only say yes because they are different, inherently
Right,
different.
right,
I
that's
mean,
right.
that was the funny thing about, you know, we're interviewing HR and then we're interviewing the sewer department or the highway department. I mean, it's completely different and almost not comparable, you know?
Right, so I guess, I like the idea of, I really like the idea of the, you know, a community technology summit, right? But I'm wondering if that's going to have to be, I guess that'll have to be for certain departments. you know.
Yeah, I think, and one of the comments was to tailor the training so you can get like departments together
Right.
and kind of train. So if some are utilizing, you know, like, I'll go back to the digitizing maps. Some departments are using maps, some they don't have to use it in their everyday. So, you know, if you focus on the mapping, you know, and you get the departments together that use that. If you focus on FOI and you get the departments that are, you know, can
And then
leverage that.
they can learn from each other.
Right,
on-
exactly.
on that. Yeah, I just think with so many departments, it's, you know, it has to be difficult, right? They need different, they have different reasons that they need the technology. Yeah, I think it's a huge project.
Chris.
Just want to make sure all this work, we obviously have the town manager's budget now. Can all the improvements that your committee suggests be implemented within the constraints of the budget?
So I referenced at the beginning, you know, this was a huge undertaking, and it was a lot of information to gather. Ultimately, technology costs money, so we would have to find out, you know, and drill down, okay, in, let's say the priorities, how much are we spending on certain processes and maybe existing softwares? How much can we invest in the technology that we feel could offset that? You know, it's not just I am going to add, you know, X amount of thousands to the budget. You have to say, okay, this is what we're doing,
Purpose, too.
and this is how we can improve, and then is there a difference, you know, and then you go from there, and you would have to really drill down, especially like on Office 365. There's ways to there's, many ways to skin a cat. So you have to look into and spend a lot of time doing that.
Right.
And if I can
Sure.
also add on to that, the town manager has put in the budget that we just received a small amount, 25,000, in this upcoming budget for us to help prepare. So we may need to do more work. Maybe there's an initial software package that, is something that's useful. If you recall, when we first discussed this, the intent of this was to create kind of a working list that we can have further discussion at the council level and with the new future town manager. So when the new future town manager comes in, we have something that we can say, hey, we did this study. Here's, maybe this person also has some experience that they can leverage. And then we can use some of that money for preparing for the next budget, maybe a larger invest in areas that we here at the council and the new management feels is appropriate.
My only concern with that is, especially related to technology, how quick it changes.
Yeah.
So all this work, we're really talking about now, if we wait till next budget, 18 months from now, realistically, because then it wouldn't take effect until July 1st,
Well, there's
2020,
Yeah. Yes and no. Yes and no. Because we didn't have the information available to us to prepare for this upcoming budget wholly, because we don't have quotations. We just started this at the beginning of the year. As I mentioned, the town manager put a small amount aside to help us with the preparation. However, with that said, if there's one-time expenses that come up during this next budget cycle, there are methods for us to access some one-time money if we as a council feel that it's worth the investment. So, there are opportunities within the existing budget to do that. As you know, when we approach the end of this year, Mark has reported that we're running a favorable budget right now. If we saw an investment between now and the end of this year, once the opportunity opens it up, we could, at this council, debate whether, if we had an investment that we thought was worth it, it was a one-time invest to get us kick-started, we as a council could decide to do that here as we approach the end of this current budget cycle as well. So there are opportunities, and I would encourage everybody to digest this a little bit, and let's talk more about which ones are the priorities.
Okay.
Okay, thank you.
Thanks, Jen.
Thanks, Jen. Okay, we will now move to the town manager's report.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. The first I'm going to be very technical on. This is an introduction to a bond ordinance, so I'm going to read it specifically. This is introduction of a bond ordinance appropriating $15 million for costs related to the 24-25 Road and Bridge Improvement Program and authorizing the issues of $15 million bonds and notes to finance the appropriation. Most of you remember that this is a four-year cycle. This is our third or fourth time we're doing a four-year cycle. With discussions between the chair and the minority leader, we went a little bit higher than we normally would based upon obviously the situation we're in. We'd like to do a few more roads, but more importantly, inflation has really taken a bite out of doing our roads. So when they both suggested, I happily said, fine, if we want to move forward in that. So we're moving forward with $15 million. We'd still be on the four-year cycle. If for some reason we had extra money at the four-year cycle, obviously you could choose to move on to a five-year cycle, but I would still suggest we stay with the four-year cycle. Now, if I can continue, several things have to happen. Number one is you need to send this to the Planning and Zoning Commission for an 8-24. You need to send this to the Board of Finance for a public hearing. You need to set a public hearing for yourself for March 11th at 7 o'clock here in this building, and those are all actions that are going to take place afterwards. How the project works is very similar to what you've had before, is that every year I sit down with my team, led by, of course, Annette, and then we could then go to the Public Works Committee and talk about what roads need to be done this particular cycle. We have a new, or actually a different process we're going to use for actually the pavement, and I think that's going to help us out. And that's working right now with the computer program, and I think we're meeting next week on that, and then, of course, or later this week, and then, of course, she'll report to your committee at your meeting, which is the first week of March. After that, then we could make public what roads we plan on doing, and it's going to be all based upon the different programs and processes that we have in the town of Southington. And if you have any questions on the 3 or 4 processes we're going to use, Annette could answer those questions for you. But I would suggest that you wait for her presentation which she's going to have to give a full-blown presentation at your public hearing on the 11th, but if you have specific questions, she can answer them tonight.
Questions for the town manager? Chris?
Through the town manager, not necessarily for tonight, but I'm hoping as part of that presentation for the public hearing, we can get an overview. We're fortunate to have the index for our roads, so we know the ones that are in most disrepair and they're rated. Just to review that process with the residents, I think it's important. I think we can all agree that's probably an issue we've heard the most about is the condition of our roads in town. So I think that would be great to have a refresher for that inventory. And then if we could maybe share just preliminary thoughts of which roads would be the first in that prioritized list. Because again, we have all that information. I think it's important to share that with the public.
By the 11th, she'll already prepared that with me and also talked to Mr. Del Santo's committee, so she'll have all that by the 11th.
Fantastic.
Correct? Yes.
Any other questions for the town manager on that?
Make sure I said the right thing there.
She will now.
Yeah.
Any other questions?
Just
Councilman
quickly,
DePaul?
so this is a new software program, right?
No.
No?
It's an updated from the
It's an
same company.
updated from the,
Same company.
the same company? Just better?
Updated data.
Okay.
That wasn't that
And
term
that's
we're
what,
speaking.
and is that, were we using this, like, coming up to the,
And
with
that
the
you'll have to come
15? Like, why we decided on the 15 million? Was it a combination of what we've done in the
Well,
past?
we've done
versus-
10 million over the cycle, and I put in, I was thinking of putting in 12 or 13,
Right.
mainly in the fact that I was hedging our bets with inflation.
Inflation.
But after a serious discussion with the minority leader and the chair, I wholeheartedly agree with their interpretation and agreed to move forward with the 15, because I think we're going to be able to get more roads done. And I think the fact of the matter is that I don't see the cost of doing roads going down in the next couple of years, so this will be able to catch us up. I think if we went with the 10 or 12, which was my original suggestion, we'd fall backwards more than we should.
Okay,
So I agree with both those.
all right, thank you.
And then the other point that we talked about too is unfortunately, it's still not going to be able to meet the needs of all of our roads. It's moving us further along. That's why I think it's so important to see what the 15 million, and again, with some flexibility, because I know inflation and there's, it depends on, once the work starts, how much you can stretch the dollars. But, just generally, what a general sense of what roads can be.
Yeah, we do,
repaired with
we're limited, obviously, with amounts is one, but time is another, and staff is another. So we had talked about, when we started the program, that 3 million is probably the max we can do during that period of time, but that was 7 years ago. So now, of course, we're going to be probably looking at 3.5 million, or maybe a little more each year. It's not just this money, and that'll explain it on the 11th. We also receive money from the state of Connecticut for our roads.
So I just wanted to wrap up with that. I think it's really important. We all heard that, and we all see and feel that infrastructure in our roads, although we've made a big investment and we paved 17 miles in the last cycle, we need to do more. I mean, we have an ailing infrastructure, and I'll say this right here. The Director of Public Works is here, and to you, Mr. Tom Andrix, I've said this. We have to find a way to get to yes on making sure we spend the money this cycle. I know you mentioned, Mark, that if there's some money left over, my hope is that we're going to spend this money in the next 4 years on the roads that we need to. We're going to get the best bang for the buck that we can and squeeze the methods that we can, but that we have to pave as much as we can and use this money, because we're not doing ourselves any favor if we don't accelerate the speed at which we are fixing our roads. Because as Mark said, if we continue to only spend at the 2 million per year rate, we're never going to catch up. So our hope, Chris and I, when we spoke about this, and I think we speak for all of you, is that one way or another, we have to get to yes, and we have to be able to spend at a higher rate for the next 4 years, and maybe even beyond. But for now, we want to take this step to try to make improvements and try to get us caught up. And if we don't do that, then putting this bond out there for this amount is a waste of time. So if we continue to only pave the number of linear feet that we have been in the last few years at the same rate, we're not going to catch up. So if it means we have to get more vendors, we have to go out for a bid to more, let's do it.
I do think that, though, staff has been asking for another process, and the fact that Cape Seal has now been approved, I think that's going to help us out quite a bit.
Excellent.
Just, can I add something, Mr. Chair?
Please.
So I think we need to underscore what the manager talked about with inflation. I know of one project that just tanked because they got a quote for $800,000 to put a road in before inflation and supply chain, whatever these issues were the past couple of years, and went up to like $1.4 million. So that was the whole project's, that's their profit. So they walked away from projects because the inflation really hammered folks the last couple of years. It's coming down a little, so let's hope going forward we can get some of these projects off the road, not only for the town to do their roads, but for private entities. And, one of these projects was an industrial park, which we dearly need here in town. So,
Excellent. Any other questions on item A?
Mr. Palmieri?
Just another
Sorry.
comment. I'm cautiously optimistic for the Cape Seal, because I know it's obviously a more affordable, I'll say affordable, not cheaper, but affordable way to repair some of our roads versus like mill and overlay. But I really hope we are, I know, Annette, you're doing your research with other communities that are using this process. I just don't want to see the repeat with the chip seal, with this. And I'm sure you're thoughtful in the roads that we choose to use, the Cape Seal versus the mill and overlay.
None of us want to relive that. No.
Excellent. Any other comments? Okay, item B, Mr. Town Manager.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. The next item I have is the Board of Finance meeting of February 14th. Least, would you turn to page 3? Most of the meeting was the presentation of the Board of Education budget. You have the budget books in front of you, obviously to review. As Mr. Palmieri already mentioned, that on Monday, the 4th, at 7 o'clock at the Powell Middle School, we're going to be having the public hearing. The public hearing is not just for the government side budget, but also for the Board of Education budget and for the capital budget. So all our budgets will be discussed at that point. Second thing I'd like to go is page 5. As the chair mentioned, we are currently running ahead on our revenues. It went down a little bit since the last time I reported to you, but most of those revenues you will see when I just start discussing with you as we move on. The capital budget, a lot of those, if the money's still available, that's what we normally use for budget reallocation, and you're all very familiar with that. I'll obviously talk about it much more when we get to the budget aspects, which will probably be in the next 2 months.
And Mark, just for the record, what's the current number that we're ahead?
It just says approximately $2 million. I believe it's 2.2, 2.3, somewhere in that.
And that's, Chris, to the discussion a little bit earlier. If we find some projects with respect to technology that we want to tap into the 2.2 and they meet the definition of things that we can invest in, we have the ability to do that between now and the end of this fiscal year. So let's keep this at the forefront and let's identify some if we can.
And just remember, that's also funding that we use for budget reallocation.
That's funding we use for budget reallocation.
I think I said that once. I
Yes,
did
it
twice
is.
now. So remember, we also use it for budget reallocation,
And Mark-
which is also capital that we use for other projects.
And you did mention, Mark, the Board of Finance budget. Are you going to mention your budget?
Yes,
We have a first read?
you have a copy of it right there. Normally, what I'll do is I'll present it on the 4th also, but you'll notice in my budget, it's broken up, obviously, like it always is, in the capital budget. It's broken up in operations, it's broken up in debt service. You can read my page, which is my introductory page, and that explains it. It's on the website for anybody who wishes to look at it. The percentages are just shy of 4% on the operation budget. We're flat on capital, flat on debt service. So if you put the both of them together, it's just shy of 3%.
Thank you.
And this, obviously, please look at my letter and then look at it more deeply. And then please either tune into, it won't be live, but tune into the public hearing when it's posted, or come to DePaulo, and myself and the superintendent will be going over our budgets then.
Thank you.
On page 7, this is you were briefed on this matter already, but the corporate counsel needed additional funds to handle the case that we currently with AMR, which is for our ambulance service. So those are the major things that happened at the Board of Finance. Happy to answer any questions that you have.
Questions for the town manager on item B?
Just a quick question, is that for the AMR, the legal fees, is that the second, that's the second?
It's either the
amount,
second or third, Val.
It might be
It's
the
either the
third,
second or
right?
third.
Yeah,
Yeah, this has been going on, as you know, since last July.
yeah.
And the hearings aren't even done yet. So I don't want to go too deep into it, because I know you're briefed by the Corporation Counsel. But
That's why I'm asking,
Yep.
because it may be.
yeah, it comes out of contingency. And I planned for contingency, but remember, my contingency was not its normal 850, it was at 600. So this is we're lucky right now, and then that promised me we're not going to have any more. But if we have a lot more snowstorms, then she'll hit my contingency too. So I want to make sure that we understand that part.
No more snow.
We're going to hold her to that part. No more questions on that. Item C, Calendar House. As you know, I believe it's every 2 years now, we get a new Calendar House bus. You see a memo in there from Dave LaPre. The Calendar House bus costs approximately $140,000. He's asking to apply for a grant of $112,000. The $28,000 difference is already in the capital budget. I'm sorry? Is already in the capital budget. Any questions about that? All right, the last item was a request to go over the update on the Plantsville Center safety and streetscape improvements. I know Annette is here. She brought some renderings as well as the ones that are in your packet. So, yeah, can you get the lights? There you go. So our Public Works Director, Annette Turnquist, is here.
All right, pertaining to the Plantsville Center safety and streetscape improvements, I just want to give an update on what's already been done and go over the schedule for completion. But first, we'll just revisit a few of the aspects of the project per the chairman's request and the town manager's request. This is just an overall rendering depicting the paver walks, the crosswalks, the decorative lights, and the lighted bollards. Just to give everyone an orientation, South Main Street is to the left, West Main Street is towards the top of the slide, and Main Street is at the bottom of the slide. This is just another view to show you what it will look like walking along the sidewalk with the pavers, the lights, and the bollards. Our walks are a little different from this, which I'll explain on the next slide. What was chosen for this project was pattern A, which those are gray pavers. That's the third sample from the top on the slide there. And also pattern B, which is the top sample. Those are more of a brick color paver. So moving over to the detail on the right, on the far left you have the granite curbing. Then you'll have 3 rows of the gray pavers, and the rest will be the brick color up to the concrete by all the buildings. The next slide is just to remind you what the lighting looks like. We have 21 of the lights proposed in this project. We're alternating banners and planters on the lights. We also have 25 lighted bollards proposed, and those are mostly within the Main, West Main, South Main intersection. Also, as part of this project, we have 2 locations where rectangular rapid flashing beacons will be installed. One of them is at the linear trail crossing, which is West Main Street near Summer Street, and also near the Faith Living Church on Main Street at Grove Street. You can see what they look on the picture to the right, but obviously our crosswalks are going to look a little different. They'll be pavers, not the painted white crosswalks. And I'll point out the locations on the next slide, just to give you an overview of where they are. The top plan is West Main Street. Summer Street is about in the middle, and where that gray hatching is, one RRFB will go just to the east of this intersection. That's where the trail crosses. And then on the bottom plan here, all the way over to the right, you'll see a gray hatched area at the very end, all the way to the east. And the other RFB will be installed at this crosswalk, and this is the one across Main Street at the Faith Living Church. So there's 2 nice safety features. This slide shows South Main Street, and this is a good slide to pause for a minute and just give you the update of where we are, because most of the work that's been done has been done on South Main Street. So the work completed to date on South Main, on the southbound side, they've worked from the southern limit of the job to about the middle of the Volpe's property, and they've completed the concrete paver walk. 4 light pole foundations were installed, 4 electric handholds corresponding to the lights they installed. All the PVC conduit for those lights has been done. The granite stone curb is in place. Concrete driveway ramps are completed. And they've also installed 2 permanent sign locations per the plan. Similar work has been done on the northbound side. The work's been done between Hillside Avenue and maybe about 90 feet short of the intersection with Main and West Main. The concrete pavers are substantially complete. 4 light poles have been installed, 4 handholds, the conduit, the stone curbing. They had a concrete sidewalk that's been done. Again, concrete driveway ramps. There was one bituminous driveway ramp that's been done. A little section of sidewalk on Hillside Avenue. Catch basin's been replaced, and on this side of the road, they've done 5 sign locations. In addition to all this work, Eversource has relocated the poles on South Main Street according to the plan. There's been some temporary bituminous curb that's been installed, and that's in preparation for the Eversource pole relocation on Main Street and West Main Street. And Eversource is supposed to be beginning that work this week. I'm not sure they were out there today, but it's supposed to be this week, and the weather's certainly cooperative, so hopefully we'll see some movement there. Currently, the project is technically in winter shutdown, which ends April 1st, but Paramount is planning on returning on March 18th. They may be here actually the week before to do some preliminary work, some survey, some saw cutting. They're going to begin across from the firehouse and complete the north side of West Main Street up to the bridge, and they're also going to do some work on Summer Street. After they complete this section, Paramount needs to evaluate whether they're going to move on to another section, or they actually do have another job that they need to do. They've got about 6 weeks to do that. But if they do choose to go to the other job, they're going to get far enough ahead where their sub, Lavero, will have plenty of work to do on the pavers while they're away doing the other job before they come back. So for the remainder of the project, the order will be the north side of West Main Street, as I mentioned, across from the firehouse up to the bridge, and Summer Street. From there, they're going to do South Main Street by the post office and finish whatever's left of South Main. Then they're going to move to Main Street, then the remainder of the north side of West Main Street, and then the south side of West Main Street back up to the firehouse. And the completion date has not changed since the last time we got a schedule. It's still planned for September 19th. And the last thing I want to mention, the last slide, is once the project is complete, we'll move on to the parklet on the corner. We plan to do most of this work in-house. We're going to install a paver walkway through the property. You can see that just looping through. We have 3 benches and 2 picnic tables planned. We'll be pouring concrete pads for those. We'll do the turf establishment consisting of topsoil and seed. There's 1 internal light pole, which we'll make sure matches the theme down there. We'll probably have our streetlight maintenance contractor install that. And we will also retain a contractor for the decorative wall that's going to display the Village of Plantsville, and that's going to be going along the curve from South Main to West Main. We also plan to add some bollards along the western property line of the parklet adjacent to the Hop House building. Hopefully, we can complete that this fall. We'll have a small window between road construction and leaf collection, but if all goes as planned, we'll try to get that done this year. Does anyone have any questions?
Any questions for the Public Works Director?
Can I just ask?
Yeah, Bill.
So Annette, just to, I want to talk about the parklet, but the pedestrian walkways, is there going to be a stop sign there or a light, what, for safety? What's going
At
to
the parklet?
No, at the pedestrian walkways, the one at Faith Living and then the one near the trail.
That's where the rectangular rapid flashing beacons are. Here,
So
let me-
what are those?
Let me
so
go back to
are
that.
those?
Oops.
Yeah, I didn't see that.
So there's no stop
There's
signs
no-
planned at
There's
all?
no stop
No.
sign there. It's just a.
Right now, there's no indicator to, so as a pedestrian approaches the intersection, those will start to flash yellow.
You have to press a button.
Yeah, press
The
the button.
pedestrian presses a button. And then it'll have the sign, the yellow signs on either side. And it's small, you can't really see it, but there are two little rectangular lights
Yep.
under those signs. So
Yep.
when they hit the button, they flash. So the
Okay,
cars
car
see
should
the
see the
flashing.
flashing and.
And our crosswalks will be consistent with the pavers,
Pavers.
so they'll be a little more noticeable than, your typical crosswalk.
Than the painted,
Yeah.
right?
Yep.
Okay. Okay, and then I guess, yeah, I just wanted to mention the parklet because of the building. the
Yes.
Hop House building. So I know everybody's aware that the building was hit again, 5 times. Do we feel comfortable with the way the parklet will be set up with the wall on the corner, right? That would slow down a vehicle?
Yeah, I mean, it's listed as a guard wall, so kind of like a guard rail. So that would help. That's one location where a lot of the lighted bollards are going.
So it's going to be more.
It'll be more visible.
More visible.
It'll be more noticeable.
With the lights.
Yeah, and then to put bollards along that western property line of the parklet where the building is, it's kind of the last step before they hit the building.
Right.
That'll help too.
We're kind of hoping that with the lights, it's similar to when a building,
That nobody
when the
gets
building
that
was
far.
there. Obviously, remember, you and I remember when the building was
Yes,
there.
yes.
The building had lights on it. I think
Right.
the issue we're having here is that it's dark. So,
Yeah.
and I think that was one of the things that Annette and I talked about, when the wall goes in, there has to be lights on that wall. So
Right
it's
there.
very similar to having a building there. And I don't recall any issues with that building getting hit, because obviously
Right.
there was lights on most of the time.
Right.
At that bar.
Right. I just, I just think it's important for us to, now that the town owns that corner lot, and knowing the owner of the building very well, every time that wall's been hit, and
We wanna-
thank you, Mr. Chair, for reaching out to her this time and, trying to help out with this situation. I do think it's the intersection. There are reasons why these accidents have happened, but it's happened 5 times, so,
I think that the whole project will help that situation
I do
because
too.
it defines the edge of the road better and.
Than it has.
I mean, 21 lights in this span, that's a lot of
Right,
lights. And
right.
25 lighted bollards, I mean, I think everything will the edge of the road will be much more noticeable.
Right.
I mean, you can't design for everything, but I think it'll
No.
help.
No, I know, and I just think that we are on notice that this, for whatever reason that it happens, whether it's speed, whether it's drunk driving, it's happened 5 times, and I just feel like we really need to be careful with that. So I agree. I think with the additional lighting, so the bollards will be near the building.
There will be some there too, yes.
Near the building, okay. All right, just to put her mind at ease. Thank you.
And just for the record, there's, the town manager had worked with Annette to temporarily put some concrete blocks there where the most recent vehicles have crossed the property and hit that building. So there's a couple temporary blocks there now. There's other granite corner curbing that's also there stored. So as that gets removed, we can obviously put another temporary block in there to keep anything further from happening while things are under construction. Then once those are removed and the parklet gets put in place, I know that the owner has already been in touch with the town manager. They're working together with Public Works Director to put some concrete bollards, which, for the record, wasn't an option in the past because the town was not the owner of that property.
Right.
So that was not an option for us to do because that was not on our property. Now that we own this property, we have the opportunity to work with the adjacent owner.
Right.
And the town managers, and as the Public Works Director has mentioned in her presentation, there's going to be some concrete bollards there along the town property line in front of that building.
And I also spoke with obviously the owner, and also spoke with the Public Works Director, that both of them will be able to review the plan before it's finalized, just to make sure everything is okay. And Annette will meet with her directly on that as we get closer to it.
Thank you. Sure. No, she appreciates the temporary, I know about the temporary,
Good.
yeah.
Not the best-looking thing, but right now, it's the way to
No,
protect the
right.
building.
We wanted them to be noticeable.
Councilman Palmieri.
Just one other thing, just listening to the conversation, is there any way to add some more temporary lighting as well? I know the blocks are there, but if we're saying that the lighting is one of the main contributors to this, is there any way to put something temporary for, you know, to
Because we
illuminate it?
Annette and I will talk, but we could put, not there, not on the blocks, but you're talking at the corner itself.
Yeah.
I'm not sure if the state will allow it, but you could always put those blinking yellow lights there, but the state has to approve that before we decide to do anything.
We did have reflective arrows
yeah.
there.
They took 'em
They
down
got
for
taken down.
construction.
Maybe they could put those back up.
Yeah, or like I said, they blink, but, well, we could check and see if if they're gonna be using that area and that, if not, we can try and have them put those signs back up, the
Yeah,
arrows
I could
pointing
talk to
both directions.
Chief Daly or Officer Schneider,
Yeah.
too.
Yeah,
See if they
they
help.
came down during construction.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah.
Any other questions? Hearing none.
Okay,
Thank
thank
you,
you.
Annette,
Annette.
for coming. Mr. Town Manager, are you all set?
Nothing to report, Mr. Chair. Thank you for your time.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Town Attorney. But for the Town Manager, are you all set with the rest of your?
Congratulations.
Oh, yes, I
Good shot out of a cannon.
Good job. Actually, one, yes, I'm glad I was ruled in. I apologize.
cow.
Well, let me finish off.
be
No, I have
nice.
nothing more, but I will turn it over
Thank
to
you,
the
Mr.
town manager
Town
slash town
Manager.
attorney.
That's okay,
Yeah,
Mr.
maybe
Town
we can
Attorney.
move it. That's the difference. I apologize.
No report for
I have no
you.
report, however.
Thank you, Mr. Town Attorney.
And
We're
I
moving
did
on
go
to,
back in the shop. For those who looking and watching at home.
okay, I was trying to think of a comment for that, but maybe not. All right, so item number 7, public communications. Is there anybody from the public here who would like to speak tonight? Is there anybody from the public who would like to speak tonight? Last call? Okay, hearing none, we will close public communications and move on to old business. Item A, 8-24, referral of bond ordinance to planning and zoning. Looking for a motion?
Make a motion to refer an 824 to planning and zoning for the bond ordinance presented earlier this evening.
Second.
We have a motion from Councilman Palmieri and a second from Councilman Del
Can I have a roll
Santo.
call on all these, Mr. Chair?
Yep, absolutely. Any discussion on the referral of the 824? Hearing none, Madam Town Clerk, would you please call the roll?
Dezak?
Yes.
Morelli?
Yes.
Palmieri?
Yes.
Perry?
Yes.
Clock?
Yes.
Del Santo?
Yes.
DiPaolo?
Yes?
Chaplinsky?
Yes, motion passes unanimously, 8-0. Item B, referral of bond ordinance to Board of Finance for public hearing, which I believe is March 11th?
Motion to approve.
Second?
No, I'm sorry, that's the next one. Let me start over. It's item B.
March 6th.
March 6th. Referral of bond ordinance to Board of Finance for public hearing on March the 6th.
Yep.
So moved, Mr. Chair.
Thank you.
Second.
Okay, so motion from Councilman Del Santo and Councilwoman DiPaolo. Any discussion on that? Hearing none, Madam Town Clerk, would you please call the roll?
Dezak?
Yes.
Morelli?
Yes.
Palmieri?
Yes.
Perry?
Yes.
Clock?
Yes.
Del Santo?
Yes.
DiPaolo?
Yes?
Chaplinsky?
Yes, motion passes unanimously, 8-0. Item C, scheduling of a public hearing for bond ordinance appropriating $15 million for costs related to the 2024-2025 Road and Bridge Improvement Program and authorizing the issue of $15 million in bonds and notes to finance the appropriation, scheduled, to be scheduled March 11th.
I'll make a motion to schedule that public hearing for March 11th at 7 PM.
Motion from Mr. Palmer.
Second.
Second from Mr. Del Santo. Any discussion on the public hearing referral? Okay. Hearing none. Madam Town Clerk, please call the roll.
Dezak?
Yes.
Morelli?
Yes.
Palmieri?
Yes.
Perry?
Yes.
Clock?
Yes.
Del Santo?
Yes.
DiPaolo?
Yes?
Chaplinsky?
Yes, motion passes 8-0 unanimously. Item,
Sure.
you're very welcome. Item D, action on report of finance.
Motion to approve.
Second?
We have a motion and a second to approve the action of the report of Board of Finance. Any discussion? Hearing none. All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, motion passes unanimously, 8-0. And item E, action on Calendar House Section 5310 grant.
Motion to approve.
We have a motion from Mr. Del Santo.
Second.
Second from the Vice Chair, Morelli. Any discussion? We'll do a
Roll call,
roll
please.
call on that one, please, Madam Clerk.
Dezak?
Yes.
Morelli?
Yes.
Palmieri?
Yes.
Perry?
Yes.
Clock?
Yes.
Del Santo?
Yes.
DiPaolo?
Yes?
Chaplinsky.
Yes, motion passes unanimously, 8-0. Item number 9, new business. Item A, tax refunds.
Mr. Chair, I make a motion to approve the tax refunds that are presented in our packet.
Second.
Councilman Perry makes a motion. Councilman Dietzig has a second. Any discussion on the tax refunds? All in favor? Aye. Any opposed? Motion passes 8-0. We're looking for a motion to adjourn.
Motion to adjourn.
Second?